In the grim maths of war and diplomacy, Hamas has now declared that it has returned all reachable bodies of Israeli hostages under the ceasefire agreement brokered by the United States. 2 more remains were handed to the Red Cross last night, bringing the total to 9, but still far short of the 28 that the deal required. The shortfall has become a critical test for Trump's much-touted new dawn for peace in the Middle East. The president has warned that Israel could resume its operations in Gaza as soon as I say the word, if Hamas is judged to have failed in its obligations. Yet privately, senior US officials have admitted that Hamas may not have physically been able to recover all the bodies, many likely buried under 2 years of bombed-out rubble. Washington insists this is not a violation of the ceasefire, but it has left the process badly frayed. The optics, however, are dreadful. For the families of the missing, the gap between promise and delivery is intolerable. Israel has slowed the entry of aid convoys, halving the number of daily trucks from 600 to 300 in protest. The Rafah crossing to Egypt, a lifeline for civilians and humanitarian agencies, remains effectively closed, and what began as a humanitarian deal now risks collapsing under the weight of its own moral contradictions. Aid is being used as leverage, peace as performance. From Hamas's side, negotiators may have made a fatal miscalculation. When they agreed to return all 28 bodies within 72 hours, they raised expectations that were logistically impossible to meet. Their subsequent explanation that specialist equipment is needed to extract remains from collapsed tunnels may be true, but it looks like evasion. If Hamas had set realistic limits from the outset, perhaps this debacle could have been avoided. As it stands, Israel portrays the delay as bad faith, while Hamas claims technical incapacity. The trust essential to any peace framework is therefore eroding, even before it starts. Meanwhile, Israel has continued to return the bodies of Palestinians held in its custody, some 90 or so far. Gaza's forensic teams report signs of torture, gunshot wounds and decomposition. The moral symmetry of these exchanges is uncomfortable, both sides trading corpses as symbols of goodwill, both accusing the other of barbarity. The peace process, supposedly grounded in mutual recognition, has instead become a ritual of mutual disgust. Trump's plan, grandly announced in Sharm el-Sheikh, was meant to usher in a second phase focused on Hamas's disarmament and the governance of post-war Gaza, but after only a few days, the rhetoric of peace is giving way to the language of retribution. Israel's defense minister has ordered the army to prepare for renewed fighting. Trump has hinted that US forces themselves might go in and kill Hamas if violence continues. It's difficult to reconcile such threats with the idea of a negotiated peace. What we're witnessing then is a fragile truce built on incompatible expectations. For Israel, peace means total security and the elimination of Hamas. For Hamas, peace means survival, reconstruction, and political relevance. For the United States, peace means a headline, something that can be proclaimed if not sustained. In what sense is this peace? Trump's so-called border peace, chaired by Tony Blair, looks less like diplomacy and more like, theatre, a headline, a banner. The deeper issue remains unaddressed. Gaza is shattered beyond recognition. 70 million tons of rubble, tens of thousands of unexploded ordnance, nearly 500,000 displaced people make this a humanitarian crisis on a scale not seen in modern history. Aid agencies warn that winter will bring starvation and disease, yet relief is hostage to political gamesmanship. So where does this leave the peace process? In truth, nowhere safe, nowhere stable. The ceasefire technically holds, but it is fraying at every seam. Hamas's failure to deliver the unexpected number of bodies has given Israel an excuse to reassert control, while the US struggles to appear even-handed. If this deal collapses, it will not be because of the missing bodies alone, but because neither side has been able to transform the mechanics of war into the habits of peace. And yet, in the middle of this despair, small mercies matter. The 9 bodies returned have allowed some families to bury their dead, and that in itself is a form of closure. And burying the dead is an essential part of the Jewish mourning process. Without the body, it's impossible to confirm the death and move on. It's the beginning of a moral reconstruction, but it will take more than the exchange of remains to build a peace that lasts. and that lives. It will require honesty about failure, restraint from vengeance, and a realism that has been sorely absent on all sides. Until then, the promise of peace remains, like the bodies still unrecovered beneath Gaza's ruins, buried under the debris of war and the hubris of foolish men like Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir, and of course the intransigence and the belligerence of the terrorists of Hamas. It becomes almost absurd to say there are problems on both sides. But in this case, there is a moral dilemma of a terrorist organization and a country's government that has descended from defense to revenge in an ugly manifestation of inhumanity.